play to save the season. The throw, fire, and down! Incomplete down at the goal line by San Diego. Tomlinson off the left side. Tomlinson sidestep. Hello, history books. I think they have to now. Here's Sproles. Sproles inside the 10, inside the 5, and the Chargers win the game.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining After Hours, covering the Chargers-Packers game. You can see it's me and Craig. Unfortunately, Garrett's stuck in a meeting, but hopefully he will be joining us in a little bit. So here we are, ready to cover the game. Craig, I don't know about you, but I kind of felt like there was an overarching story or theme for this game, something that we saw that I think was really encouraging, and that was Herbert kind of taking the leadership mantle and getting angry and kind of maturing before our eyes. So why don't we start there? What was your take on Herbert's game, and what did you think about, what we saw from him in terms of him showing emotion and kind of taking charge of the team?
It's exactly what we've all been asking for. It's like that last final element to his game that seemed to be missing, that he was catching a lot of flack for. I know that when you're talking about a leader, you're looking for someone to be fiery when necessary, maybe more vocal. And we saw it in real time today. I've never seen that version of him. He gets pissed on a delay call, and he went after, I guess, was that clap that he was barking at? Maybe, potentially, whoever it was, but not seen that version of him throughout the game. He just seemed insistent upon willing the team to victory. I mean, he typically does it with his play. You may not see him be as demonstrative, but today that was off the table. He had had enough, and fed up Herbert is the one that I want to see going forward, because at this point, I'd be annoyed if I were him. The ask for him to basically carry the team and go win it every week, outside of all the things going on around him, has to be frustrating. And to put forth that type of effort, to go out there and play, whether you're injured, you've got guys missing, or people aren't producing to the level they're supposed to, but it's almost always on your shoulder and you feel that weight to have to go out there and make it happen, I'd be frustrated as hell too. So the version of Herbert that I feel like we were all looking for, we got today. And I look forward to seeing more of it throughout the rest of the season and for the rest of his career. But I think this might have been his breaking point as far as that stoic part of him is, like I said before, much more demonstrative today. And I don't think it'll be like a complete 180 we see. He'll probably tap into it when he needs to, but today he was fed up, and I absolutely am with him.
Yeah, I agree. I thought him getting angry with that delay call was kind of telling, because we really haven't seen him show a whole lot of emotion on the field. So that to me was really important. But I also thought, kind of more than that, just seeing him kind of will the offense to points in the fourth quarter, the way he took over 2 or 3 drives in the second half, I thought was really important for me. Not staying in the pocket, not holding onto the football, extending drives with his legs, getting the ball out, making good throws. I mean, they had 3 or 4 drives that probably should have ended in points in the mid third quarter, all the way through the end of the game. And it was all because of him. He got into a rhythm. He took over the line of scrimmage. He was making plays both with his legs and with his arm. And it was, I think, a really important thing to see from him from a maturation standpoint of understanding when to use his legs. Because, he's usually somebody who's going to sit in the pocket, wait for guys to get open. And sometimes he takes sacks he shouldn't take because he's not using his legs. And today, he was getting himself out of trouble consistently, making people miss in the open field. His ability to run opened up that RPO pop play they threw to QJ in the second half. So his legs opened up the offense, and it's something that I hope they build on moving forward, because I think that's something they've been missing, is not just him ad-libbing, but I think they can design runs for him in the red zone. that'll make the offense more versatile. And it's something I was expecting because they did that with Dak in Dallas, and they really haven't done that with Justin. I don't know if that's a Staley thing, if that's a Chargers thing. I definitely don't think it's a Kellen Moore thing, but it hasn't materialized the way I'd hoped it would. And hopefully seeing what his legs meant to the offense will, kind of push them to incorporate some of those plays in the offense.
It feels a little bit like they're afraid to unleash him. I mean, he's a big boy, 6'6", 240 pounds. Do we expect him to run the ball 10 to 12 times a game? No, but you can absolutely design plays, particularly in the red zone, like you mentioned, that teams may not be keeping an eye out on. If you want to spread defenses out and create some open lanes for him, I mean, that's a big guy coming downhill, and he's clearly tough. He's played through multiple injuries, so he's not afraid to go out there and put his body on the line. For some reason, they're handling him with kid gloves like they're afraid that he'll get hurt. I mean, he's been playing hurt now for the better part of 2 years. And at some point, if your offense is limited because you're missing weapons, you have to find other ways to create points. And you've got someone who's one of the larger, more athletic quarterbacks in the league, and you refuse to utilize him in that way on a regular basis. I respect what Herbert went out there and did today. Again, he put it all out on the line. And yeah, he did his best to ensure that that team won that game, and they found a way to give it up again. I'm not going to say that was his fault, but I'm sure a bunch of people out there will, because they had the ball with the last, under 2 minutes. Again, he had the ball last. So, of course, it's going to fall into his lap that he somehow didn't come through in the clutch and win another game. All other circumstance surrounding him will be ignored. But I don't think he cares about any of that. He just wants to go out there and win the game. And he has all of my respect for it. I respected him before, even more so after today.
So let's kind of jump into the defense a little bit. We've talked a lot about the defense on our after-hour shows and all of our shows, but we continue to see the same mistakes over and over and over again. At this point, what can we really expect to change? I mean, we're seeing 8-yard cushions on 3rd and 1, 12-yard cushions on 3rd and 6. They're playing quarters when everybody in the building knows they're probably going to run the ball, and they're checking into short passes. I no longer understand what we're seeing. It seems like an over-reliance on the scheme, quote unquote. But at this point, it's just being hard-headed. Am I missing something?
No, absolutely not. Staley is stubborn to a fault. I mean, at some point, you have to come to the realization that something isn't working. And for a while, it felt like he was more so blaming the players. Recently, he seemed to take responsibility for it. And yet, and still, you saw essentially the same defense rolled out there again this week. Now, Derwin played more star, so there was a change, but it doesn't say anything to the fact that, as you mentioned, 3rd and short, you're rolling out there with your corners with the same depth as your 2 high safeties. And you're just asking teams to throw balls into the flat or do shallow crossers across the middle of the field where you know you're weak because your second level can't cover diddly. And yet and still, you're doing it regardless. So this is what I'm confused about, ultimately. What exactly is the point of doing what you're doing now when it hasn't worked for 2.5 years? You're willing to take the blame somewhat in recent weeks. So at least you're getting to the point of admitting that maybe it's something you're doing wrong and not just the players. But are you going to say that today was another winning performance, Brandon? Did the defense look connected again? Because all of these, phrases and adjectives that he rolls out there, they're falling upon deaf ears at this point, because literally every week there's nothing to prove what it is he's saying. Your words ring hollow now. You just say stuff. You don't do anything to back it up. The product on the field, to me, is a direct result of the leadership. And now my questioning is, aside from just the play calling, there seems to be an issue with player development, because you can't be in the same scheme for 2.5 years and still be suffering from the same things that plagued you in the beginning. You had excuses then. Now you've got guys that have a bunch of time on task. You've had off seasons. You've had the ability to add players that you need to your scheme. And yet still, you're suffering from the same exact issues. So that tells me that it's not just a play calling issue. There's a development issue. So now you're wrong on all fronts. And essentially, I'll put it this way, and not to be super long-winded about it, the way I feel in this regard is, say you have a lawn company come out and cut your grass every week, but they leave patches of grass every week, no matter what, right? And you have them under contract. Are you going to continue to pay them because you like the guys who do it? Because if you do, that's fine. Just know that you're complicit in the actions that are going on, and you just deal with it. Don't complain when you hear people or your neighbors look around and talk about how crap your lawn looks. You're signing up for that. It just is what it is at this point with Brandon Staley. Yes, the players deserve a certain level of criticism for it as well, because we saw some terrible angles and ridiculous tackling again. But Brandon Staley is inviting the defense to play a type of game that they are not catered to. You want guys to line up off of the ball and click and close when they've showed no ability to tackle in open space. How many broken tackles did we see today at the second level, in the secondary? But you're consistently asking your players to do things that they don't do well. It's as if Brandon Staley just thinks that one day it's going to start working. And here we are, 11 weeks in, and you can say in many facets, it's worse.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you make a lot of good points. You know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And that's kind of where we're at. You know, we're asking Kendricks and Murray to cover in space and take good angles and tackle in space. We're asking Alohi Gilman to play deep and cover the deep part of the field. You're giving 8 to 12 yard cushions on seemingly every play with no pass rush. They can't blitz because they can't cover. So they have to rely on 3 and 4 man rushes more often than not. There just doesn't seem to be an answer at this point. And it's the scheme, and it's the play calling, and it's Staley, and it's the players. I mean, like you said, 2.5 years in, now more than 2.5 years in, making the same mistakes they were making in year one, and this is his roster. You know, they went out and they signed J.C. Jackson because he said he fit the system. Now he's gone. Michael Davis made the system work for a little while last year. Now he's struggling. Asante Samuel Jr. is taking bad angles and missing tackles. He's been their best cover guy, but he's still struggled at times getting guys on the ground. There's problems at all 3 levels, and they're not getting it done. And now Bosa's hurt, so now they're down to 2 pass rushers really, and they can't generate any pressure at all. So you've got, you know, you look at the stats and you think, oh my God, Jordan Love carved up the Chargers. But you know what? They were all open throws. There were no big time throws, no real tight window throws. He was throwing into open space, open grass all day long, sitting in the pocket, clean pocket, no pressure, just pitch and catch. Whether it was a 2-yard pass or a 20-yard pass, it was just pitch and catch. They didn't challenge him at all. They didn't put him in conflict at all. There was nothing there to make things difficult on him, period. They got a couple sacks, but really there was very little pressure to speak of. And it's the same thing we see pretty much every week. Unless they play a team that has no offensive line and terrible quarterback play, they can't get a stop. And it's been the same thing all season and really for the majority of his tenure here. So you kind of wonder when enough is enough for the Spanoses, for Telesco. Something's got to change. I still don't think they fire him during the season just because that's not how they do business, but it's time. We know what this is. We know how this is going to play out. We've seen this movie so many times already. It's time to rewrite the script, and it's time to change the screenwriters while we're at it.
And now we're talking about it, adding to, the statement that I made about the Chargers being the cure for what ails you. More days where teams are suffering in certain scenarios and the Chargers fix it for them. Packers hadn't had a 300-yard passing game in roughly 2 seasons, and Jordan Love had never had a 300-yard passing game in his career to this point. And add to that, the Packers hadn't scored over 20 points in 7 weeks. And you just knew they were going to give something up. But nah, they went in there like Santa Claus. They gave it all. Whatever was on your list, you were able to get today. And unfortunately, this is a weekly occurrence. And at some point, I get the Spanos, this not being the Spanos way, letting guys go while they're on contract and just kind of gritting and bearing through it. But how much of this embarrassment can you endure on a week-to-week basis in a larger market with all of these eyes on you? And part of me feels like, and I never hope for anyone to lose their job. I mean, we're all family men. We understand what that means. I mean, it's a little different when you're a multimillionaire. I get it. But even by that token, like, come on, man. What good is it going to do to hold on to someone who clearly can't figure it out? And you're going to have to deal with all of the ridicule associated with it. You used to be able to hide in San Diego. You can't do it in LA. So there's a huge part of me that hopes that pressure forces them into a move, because if it hasn't worked in over 2.5 years, what makes you feel any confidence that it's going to change with how many more weeks we have left in the season, whatever, enough to make you or get you in position for a playoff run and have you be a competitive team? Because at this point, you're losing players. You don't have a way around the issues that you have, and more issues are being created because you're losing based on the health of your players. So you're losing contributors. So as bodies start to fall and your system isn't effective, then you have no path to victory, because apparently you aren't either intelligent enough or you're too stubborn to come up with a new idea, new schemes to fit what it is you have. You just much rather continue with the round peg, square hole thing and just ride it out, just sink with the Titanic. And so with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and declare for myself, I want Brandon Staley gone. And if you don't like it, just deal with it. That's my personal opinion. You don't have to agree with me.
I happen to agree with you. I'm tired of watching this crap. Like I said, we know what we're going to get every week, and it doesn't matter who they're playing. We're getting the same movie every week, and it's got to change. So if the Spanoses are serious about winning, if they're serious about, building a real fan base in LA and maintaining it, and about taking advantage of a pretty damn talented quarterback in Justin Herbert, who they just extended, then it's time to make a change. And, I think there's two names that have been kind of linked to the Chargers in recent weeks. We talked a lot about Jim Harbaugh last week. We've seen Belichick linked to the Chargers in the last couple of weeks. I doubt Belichick happens. I have a feeling he probably winds up with the Giants or maybe with the Redskins. But to me, Harbaugh makes sense. I thought he made sense when they hired Staley. And I'm hopeful that their mindset on hiring an experienced head coach has changed. Because like we've talked about a lot, I just don't think they have the infrastructure to support a first-time head coach. I don't think Telesco has enough say in what's going on. I think he's just there to go get the players the coach wants. And when you're bringing in a first-time head coach, you run the risk of him not knowing how to communicate what he wants or not being able to identify what he wants. One name that I would not be surprised if people mention, because he was linked to the Chargers as an offensive coordinator candidate last offseason, and he's doing really well right now with the Texans, is Bobby Slowick. He's a guy who seems to be on the rise out of that Shanahan tree, doing great things with CJ Stroud in Texas. I still prefer an experienced head coach. I would go with Harbaugh, but I would not be surprised if his name gained some steam with all the success he's been having with CJ Stroud and the things that they do with that offense. I think if you can do those things with CJ Stroud, just think of what you can do with Justin Herbert.
Yeah. So I've been on the Harbaugh train also. You know that. I am not an advocate of having another first-year guy, because we need someone who can, for a lack of a better term, walk in the building and drop their nuts on the table and say, hey, this is the way things need to go. And if you want me, this is how it has to go down, period. And let that be that. Let John update his resume with all of the quote-unquote successes that he has on your dime. If that makes him feel better, let him have all the credit. But let the football people come in and be football people. If we're talking first-year guys, again, I don't want it. But if they are dead set on having that happen, then yeah, I like Slowick. You know that Ben Johnson is a name that's out there as well. An offensive guy, someone who's creative as a play caller. I saw that just last week. And going down the rabbit hole of looking at first-time coaches, hot names, is just not something that I'm interested in. We've had 3 straight regimes of that. And roughly similar results. Got a couple playoff appearances to show for it. At the end of the day, how competitive have you really, really been in the last, 12 or so years? It's really frustrating to see that this team seems to not necessarily care about winning. If they're somewhat competitive, they seem content. And they also don't want to have to relinquish certain powers. But an established head coach with some hardware, especially as someone who's been to, a big game or two and knows what that experience is like and what it means to build a winner, probably intimidate some people in that organization. And to not want to relinquish power to someone just shows you the type of mindset that they have. Because if you cared about winning, you just concede the fact that maybe you don't know it all. And you bring someone in the building that has the experience, that's done it. And, maybe you have to concede a little bit. But at the end of the day, is it about your ego or is it about having a winning franchise? Because apparently, if you're in charge as ownership, you can't have both. So you're going to have to give up one for the other. What credit are you getting at this point right now, John? I mean, what is the team really doing? So you're probably better served allowing someone to come into the building and do their thing. And if they'll let you take the credit for it, then great. You get to ride off into the sunset one day looking like you actually accomplished something, as opposed to propping yourself up with nothing to prove that you're the guy that you claim you are.
Yeah, it just seems like they're stuck in this never-ending cycle of hiring these first-time head coaches who have no answers and aren't willing to make changes to their staff or their scheme when things start to go awry. So that, to me, is super frustrating. We have a question here from Brian. We've talked about this a lot at length, but I'll throw that up there. Is John Spanos the de facto GM? If so, we are so screwed. So Brian, John Spanos he's the head of football operations. He makes all the decisions. Telesco answers to him. Telesco more or less serves as the middleman between Spanos and whoever the head coach is. And his job is to go out and carry out whatever the head coach's vision is. And like I've mentioned before, and we've talked about it a little bit today, the problem with that approach is you get a first-time head coach in there who may or may not know what he needs, and he's trying to tell Telesco what he needs, and they're making mistakes like we've seen with Lynn and McCoy because they don't understand how to communicate the vision. I thought at times it seemed like Staley was doing a better job of communicating the vision, and they were getting the right players, but it hasn't worked. So they need to get the right players that fit the system, and they need a coach who can actually find those players. And I think that's another big reason why you want an experienced head coach, somebody who knows what he wants to do, how he wants to do it, how to formulate that identity, and what kind of players fit that identity. Because I think that's where they've been lacking really with the first-time head coaches is they just don't know. You don't know what you need until it's too late, basically.
Super strange. So ideally, you would want the role that John serves to be more of an overseer, quote unquote, kind of, sort of, a little less involved. But ask yourself this question if you're curious about what his actual position is. Just look at Telesco's tenure, look at his overall record, and then question, in what industry could someone this mediocre continue to be employed in? Who could remain gainfully employed with what's on Tom Telesco's resume currently? And then you may be able to have a little bit better insight into what his job actually is. He's literally nothing more than a buffer. He essentially is the middleman for communications, I assume, between the head coach and the person who he reports to in John Spanos. So does Tom Telesco even strike you as someone who's one of those gritty, stick his foot in the ground guys? His opinion is going to trump all. He's going to go to bat for your head coach, or is he just more of a guy who takes orders and finds a more palatable way to trickle it down to the head coach? Because that's what I believe it is. He makes things palatable both ways. And I guess there's a certain talent in that. And maybe that's why he's had a job for as long as he has, because for lack of a better term, and I mean, I know there's no way to say this without it sounding disrespectful, like capable lapdogs, I guess, are hard to find. So that's kind of what his job is. That's what he does. He's essentially the guy that does everyone's bidding, but finds a way to make everyone around him understand. And he doesn't rock the boat. So he's a talent there. And I feel like, and we mentioned this before, he's probably not going to go anywhere after this year. There's still a chance they could get rid of him. But I'll say this, don't be surprised if he doesn't go. Regardless as to who the head coach is that comes in, if they do in fact part with Staley at the end of the season, don't be surprised to see Tom Telesco stick around, because there's a place in this world for people like him.
I also think he's there to take the heat for Spanos. He's the one giving the front office sound bites. He's the one giving the press conferences, between seasons at the draft. He's the face and voice of the front office, so Spanos can hide in the background and do his thing. And if you want a good laugh, and I've shared this before, but if you want a good laugh, go on the Chargers website and read John Spanos's bio, and you will get an idea of what they think of him and what they would like us to believe he's doing. It reads like the bio of a 5-time Super Bowl champion GM. It is absurd. And they give him credit for every player they've ever drafted since 2011, I think, when he came on board as the president of football operations. He gets credit for every win, every playoff trip. I mean, it's maddening, but it's pretty funny. So if you want a good laugh, go check that out, because I think that tells you all you need to know about what John is really doing and what Telesco is really doing.
I guess the funny part about that is you continue to go on years and years and years with no real wins to show for it, right? You can look at these names and players that you've drafted that have gone on to be all pros, and all that's great. But when you look at like the real meat and potatoes of it all, and winning and playoff success and, playoff runs, he doesn't really have that to lean on. And at some point, again, that resume starts to look a little hollow when you don't have any real tangible proof of success. And he doesn't. And so hopefully, again, this may be lends towards them finding a real football guy to come in and be the head coach. And then you can update that resume, hopefully, at least go a different route, because what's been happening now for the last few years hasn't been working. And I'm sure that just, talking about the guys you've drafted and how good they are, that doesn't translate into wins. It's got to start looking and feeling old to you. So maybe the Grinch has a change of heart this year.
So I think another storyline that came out of this game that we can't really avoid is Quinton Johnston. It's something we've been talking about at length all season. I know they're talking about it in the chat, and we can't really cover this game without talking about it. So, we know based on Garrett's contact with the team that they drafted Quinton Johnston because they thought he was going to be their CeeDee Lamb. That was the vision. There was a divide in the draft room. There was most of the front office and the coaching staff. They wanted Zay Flowers. Kellen Moore wanted Quinton Johnston, and Telesco wound up siding with Kellen Moore, and they took Quinton Johnston because he was going to be the CeeDee Lamb. That was the immediate plan for him. Obviously, that is not panning out. And we've seen some pretty alarming things, and I think it's actually getting worse based on what we saw today. So, the big storyline with him coming out of the draft was, can he catch the ball? He's a body catcher. Can he catch his hands? Will he learn to use his hands? Is he physical enough to beat NFL corners? And I think the answer that we're seeing so far is a resounding no. So what are you seeing Quinton Johnston right now? And what, aside from the easy answer, which is everything, what needs to improve?
I'm seeing all the things that when we did our draft coverage this year and just kind of scouting guys that I saw then, but now it's more pronounced because he's playing against NFL level competition. In college, you could be bigger than guys, maybe out athlete them. And you could play against a couple cats that, the furthest they were going to go is college ball. You can get away with it. Also, you played at TCU, so the level of competition you went up against, somewhat questionable. Let's just talk about where he stands right now. Defensive backs don't respect Quinton Johnston. Just today, and I'm sure I can go back and find more instances of this, where guys just squat on all of his routes. They don't respect him vertically at all. I watched the corner give up maybe about 6 to 8 yards of cushion. QJ never threatened him. He never remotely looked like he was about to turn, swivel his hips, and attempt to run downfield. Just sat on it and waited for more of a comeback route. All DBs expect at this point is for Quinton Johnston to threaten upfield and either go horizontally in his break or run something coming back to the ball. They don't fear him vertically. And one of the reasons why they don't fear him vertically is because they think he's deathly afraid, number one, of attempting to catch a ball deep. They don't even respect his hands vertically because they feel like they can also contest that. And 9 times out of 10, he won't come down with the ball because he's not a 50-50 catch guy. He's not a contested catch guy. It's not what he does. It wasn't what he was in college. And even on the balls where you're catching him on comebacks and outs, unless he has at least a bit of separation from DBs, 9 times out of 10, he's not going to come down with the contested catch. What's really sad is, and I spoke to this a minute ago about what we saw from him in college, I think he led all of college football in drop percentage last season. And people ignored it. And we saw video in the off season of him in rookie minicamp catching balls on air, one-handed grabs that folks kept throwing in our faces because we were critical, and fairly so, of the fact that he had questionable hands. People said the hell with the statistics that proved it. Forget the fact that you could physically see it on film. Let's just go with someone who's out there in shorts and a t-shirt catching a ball with no one defending them with no pads on. And that was what we spoke to. Well, let's just wait until the pads come on and see what this guy can do. And this isn't a pat ourselves on the back moment, but it's proven itself to be correct. Like, all we try to do here is be fair and balanced. And in my personal assessment of Quinton Johnston, I always felt like he was more of a Z receiver, someone who needed to play off the line of scrimmage, potentially someone you needed to put in motion so that you could keep him clean. Because if DBs got their hands on him, they could reroute him. Not only are they rerouting him, they're punking him. They're pushing him out of plays altogether, out of the field of play altogether. Like, I mean, literally into the sideline. Like, he could pick up a cup of Gatorade if he wanted to and chill out if he needed. Like, that's how bad it's gotten. And we're talking about a first-round wide receiver that can't provide any meaningful contribution without your wide receiver 2 and 3 down. At this point, he's just taking up space. You saw the drops again today. A wide open, possible game-winning touchdown where Herbert does his best to keep a play alive, catches him wide open down the field. All the kid has to do is over the shoulder, haul it in. If he can just put all of his concentration into just catching the ball, if he falls, who cares? I think at that point they're at least in field goal range. He can't do it. It's like he's in his own head. He's afraid of catching the ball. He's a wide receiver who seems to be deathly afraid of catching the ball. No separation. And at this point, it's like I said before, you have to question what they're doing from a developmental standpoint. He was led to believe that he had a starting role coming out of rookie minicamp of all places. And I don't understand where he got that idea. I'm assuming it was from a coach, but never mind. We're further on down the line. The disservice that the Chargers have done him is we all knew that he was probably going to be called upon at some point because historically the Chargers have issues with injury history in the wide receiving room. And they pretty much arrested his development by handling him with kid gloves for weeks and weeks on end. And now he's forced into games and he's still not ready. He's not even aligning properly. I watched Keenan bark at him because he wasn't aligned properly. He didn't know he was supposed to be on the line of scrimmage before a play started. So there are greater issues other than the kid just catching the ball. He doesn't even know where he's supposed to be on the field. What are we doing at this point?
Yeah, I think he had 3 drops today, if I'm not mistaken. I know there was like a short out or a comeback route early in the game, and he dropped a couple of, deep or intermediate throws too, including the one at the end of the game. And to me, I think what stands out to me, especially on the deep throws where they're trying to get the ball to him down the field, is I see panic. Like, his arms are flailing around. You can just feel his eyes popping out of his head. And he just, like, he almost has that feeling of like, why me? Like, why would you throw the ball to me in this position, in this situation? And that's pretty alarming for a guy who's, granted, he's only 10 games in, but first round pick, 21st pick overall, a guy who they had a specific role carved out for. Like you said, he doesn't know where to line up. I think there have been instances where he hasn't executed his routes or blocked properly and cost them some points or cost them yardage. He just seems lost in pretty much every possible way when he's out on the field. And about the only way they can get the ball to him and have any confidence that he's going to catch it is on that pop play they ran for him today. Otherwise, he's going to trap the ball against his body. The corner is going to play through him, and it's probably going to get knocked out. I mean, he cannot box anybody out. He is not physical enough to win at the top of his route. If somebody gets their hand on his wrist or tries to pin his arm down, I mean, on that touchdown route, it just seemed like he quit on the route. The corner got his hands on him at the top of his route, and he got a little bit of separation, but it kind of seemed like he quit before the ball came out. And then he panicked once the ball went up. So you got to wonder what they're doing from a developmental standpoint, but you also got to wonder from a scouting standpoint, what are they doing? Because these are all things that were very evident on his college tape. We talked about it at length. There were other people who talked about it. Yes, he's a phenomenal athlete. Yes, he provides yak opportunity, but that's not really the way this offense is set up for him to be that, to just do that. The hands are questionable. He runs a limited route tree. He's not used to playing physical corners. And I think the thing that frustrates me is he is not physical enough, and he is not mentally tough enough right now to handle learning at the NFL level. If somebody gets their hands on him, he's done. They're going to run him out of bounds. They're going to knock him off his route. He's going to quit. He's just not tough enough to play through that kind of contact. So he, like you said, he was taking advantage of some very questionable secondary talent in the Big 12. Very questionable. I mean, 10-yard cushions against some pretty bad corners. He was beating guys because he was playing poor competition. And that's the way the Big 12 has been for a long time. And that's not what you get at the NFL level. Even at the NFL level, the slot corners are guys who were stars in college. So they have a project on their hands. And I'm not sure that this coaching staff is the right staff to develop him because of what we're seeing so far. It's just very slow going. They don't know how to use him. They're asking him to do things he's not capable of doing, and he's not responding very well. And you can just see the confidence eroding every time they throw the ball to him. There's just panic, and it's very alarming.
You're asking a wide receiver who doesn't play a physical brand of football to do exactly that, and somehow magically you expect him to succeed at it. No, we've seen him make plays where you're able to get him the ball in the space and allow him to run after the catch. But that's the problem. He needs space in order for that to happen. And also, probably going to have to get him the ball in the short areas of the field because he does lack confidence down the field. Anything beyond, I guess, behind the line of scrimmage or maybe 5 to 10 yards out, he panics. It's weird because he should be accustomed to being the guy. That's who he had to be at TCU. You didn't have great quarterback play there. You had a questionable offense overall, but you were the dude. So the light shouldn't be too bright for you. And it feels that way. It's like you mentioned, it did look like he quit on that route a bit. Also feels like he gets the biggest eyes when the ball is coming his way, like he doesn't expect it at all, which as a wide receiver, you should always expect the ball. That's part of the confidence portion of it. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're running something backside and maybe you're even a decoy. You're still a read. There's a chance that the ball could come to you. If things aren't open on the first or second read, you're backside of that, then you got to be prepared to be looking for the ball or maneuver on a broken play to make a play for your quarterback. Nothing's ever off of the table as a receiver. So I'm not sure what his mindset is going into these games, but personally, I feel like if you're a first-round draft pick, and you find yourself behind the wide receiver 2 and 3, then you have to be doing everything every day to prepare as if eventually you'll be that guy. And apparently QJ was not familiar with Chargers history when it comes to injuries, particularly at the wide receiver position. Because if he was, then I'd be in that playbook every free moment I could get, because there's a chance that you're probably more likely than not, you're going to see significant playing time, and you have to be ready when your number is called. And he looks like he's never played the position before. It's scary. And yeah, you don't necessarily want to draft a project when you were supposed to be a competing team, potentially looking at an opportunity to make a run at a Lombardi. You draft a piece that could help to complete what it is you need for that run, and they didn't do that. You could argue that they probably bypassed better options. You know how I feel about that. You guys agreed as well. Like, you know, as far as who they should have taken, it is what it is at this point. QJ is who they have. And I'm not sure how much work can get done now this far into a season to where you can expect any tangible results, because the kid is light years behind where he should be at this point.
And I think the fact that they activated 2 practice squad wide receivers and went with 6 receivers today was pretty telling. So yeah, I'm not sure where they go from here. I do think, you know, we're all frustrated. I'm frustrated because a lot of us saw this coming, at least early in his career, based on the college tape. But also, I think frustrated because we want him to succeed, right? The team needs him to succeed. Nobody's sitting here rooting for him to fail. But they haven't used him very well. They're asking him to do things he's not capable of doing at this point in his career. You want to give him time, but they don't have time to give him time right now. They need him to start playing. So I don't even know what to say anymore at this point. I do want to say, though, that I think it's too early to say he's a bust. It's 10 games in. A lot can happen in an offseason. He's got 4 years left on his rookie deal if he makes it that far. They're going to give him every opportunity. So maybe hold off a little bit on saying he's a bust, but obviously there's a lot of work to be done there. And it's time to start questioning if they have the right people in place to do that work.
Well, he's a first-round rookie draft pick. Like you mentioned, got almost a handful of years left on that deal. You're not getting rid of him. I mean, he's not a pariah or anything. He's not a cancer in the locker room. He just needs development. And unfortunately, when you draft projects and they don't develop fast enough, then you are putting your coaching staff at risk. You're putting your job at risk by making those calls. Also brings into question who really pushed for this to happen. Because I know Kellen Moore fancied him to be, what's his face again? CeeDee Lamb. But you're not utilizing him the way that you would CeeDee Lamb. And it doesn't seem like there's an emphasis on trying to get him the ball so that he develops some comfortability within the game. So, I mean, I know that they said this was Moore's pick, but something feels wrong here. He's not being used properly. Moore's the play caller. He had an idea of the way he wanted to use him, and it's not happening. There's a disconnect on multiple levels here. And so, yeah, you're finding yourself in a scenario where if this is true, people feel about speculative stuff. Let's just say this is on the coaching staff, and they made all these decisions. Why aren't you using him the way that you told us you would use him? What's stopping you from doing that?
His skill set.
Well, if the plan was to use him as someone who was a yak guy, but you do it on occasion, then who's forcing you to use him like Mike Williams? Who's saying that you have to do that? Like, what part of the offense is predicated upon Quinton Johnston playing the Mike Williams role when we know that's not what he does? Just from a philosophical standpoint with the coaching scheme, like, how does that work? How do you get to that point? We know he can't do it. We're going to force him to try to do it anyway. Yeah.
What's up, Garrett? Welcome.
Hey, I'm here. I have no idea.
Garrett has arrived.
Yes, I'm here. So I don't know what you guys have been talking about. So I'm just going to fire off, because here's the problem. Okay. First of all, I was at a coaches meeting. As you guys know, I'm a championship winning head coach. So to waste my time on a fucking Sunday to watch that garbage is beyond me. The fact that I had to go sit through a meeting, watch the end of that game, and have to come in here at the last 10 minutes and do this thing is ridiculous. I don't know what you guys talk about. Let's just fucking keep going. All right. Chargers wide receiving core just can't catch. They have bricks for hands. We've got Quinton Johnston, who drops a deep pass, and everybody on Twitter is going, oh, he had one of his hands held back, and he tried to catch it with one hand. That's because he's soft and he's weak, and he plays like a 5'2" wide receiver instead of a 6'2" wide receiver, and he's playing like he weighs less than we do. He is a monster and a statue, and he actually runs like one, and he has hands like one, which is not surprising. He had a chance to win the game at the end, drops the pass. It hit him in both hands. Where's your excuse then? He's been trying to one-hand catch balls since training camp, and Staley's talking about, I don't know if you guys saw the post-game thing yet from Staley and him going after
talking
Popper.
about the plays he made in training camp.
Yeah. So this guy makes one-handed catches in training camp, and all you assholes are trying to pump him up like he's the next coming of Jesus Christ and Jerry Rice mixed together. And here he is trying to make these one-handed catches, and he's dropping them. So go ahead and take that and delete your mentions, because if I find them, they're going out there from here on out. Chargers Twitter account is tweeting it out like, oh, I thought, doing the SpongeBob meme, like, oh, he can't catch with his hands. Yeah, he's great in training camp when he's playing in his underwear. When he's playing against grown-ass men, he's losing. And he lost the game for the Chargers when he's wide-ass open. Keenan Allen drops an easy first down, if not a touchdown.
Two.
Two. Can I get there? I just got here. I'm working there, okay?
Let him cook.
Let me wind up.
Let him cook, Jamie.
Me wind up, because I'm tired of this shit. I just got in here, and I had to sit in a meeting and watch them lose, and then I had to sit in a car, drive back, and then come on here, and I'm pent up, and I'm letting it out right here. The fact that he drops the first one, and then, he goes to the sideline, he taps his chest, go, my bad. The second one, he's going to point at the sun. Bro, you think you're tougher than the sun? Put on a visor or something. It is a sunny day in Green Bay. Catch the football. Donald Parham drops a 4th down conversion. Dude, there are no tight ends left. Catch the fucking ball. I'm tired of everybody not being able to catch the ball. Then you've got on defensively, this defense is not good enough in coverage to be giving these massive cushions. They're not athletic enough at linebacker. Their corners are not driving on the ball at all on anything. And when they do, they're getting grabby. Their pass rush is giving the quarterback way too much time. And coincidentally, they're in Green Bay. Their defense looked like Swiss ass cheese today. And so giving it a Swiss cheese makes a good analysis, because there were holes all over the field. Their pass rush looks great against guys like the Raiders and the Jets guys who are signing Best Buy employees to play offensive line. They don't have good offensive line. They don't have NFL players, and yet they can go and beat those guys. But then when you really need to go and get a pass rush against a terrible offense, you can't get any push. You got some pressure sacks from Sebastian Joseph Day, who Jordan Love is tapping the ball for 12 seconds. Jamie can get that sack. I can get that sack. That's a long time to get after the quarterback. Congratulations, you got a sack. Khalil Mack, a great one to knock him out of field goal range. I'll give him that one. But they were not putting pressure on the quarterback, and they can't because they're not good. This defense is bad. And if Staley's going to go out there and go, well, we didn't lose defensively, this isn't on the defense, there's a whole nother unit we lost as a football team. Dude, what are you talking about? Jordan Love has not passed for 300 yards ever in his lifetime, dude. Not just like in the last couple of games, ever in his life. As an NFL quarterback, he's never had 300 yards. And then he goes, oh, but we helped in the run game. 2 running backs went down with injury, dude. What are you talking about? Of course, if Aaron Jones goes down and then you've got the second string running back go down, then of course you're not going to be able to do it. And don't forget, you gave up a long rushing touchdown to a wide receiver. And Jordan Love is throwing to guys like Datavion Hicks, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed, Beatrice Kiddo, John Wick, Dora the Explorer. Like, nobody knows who these guys are, and yet he can get 300-plus yards on these guys.
Keep going.
Dude, you are ass, Staley. Stop going back and going, I'm going to call the plays. If you're going to keep on going and doing the same exact thing, this is going to be a loser organization and a loser team, and they'll continue to do it if nobody's going to make any type of change at all. Everybody's looking past like, oh, will the Chargers beat the Bills or the Ravens or the Chiefs? They can't beat the Packers, man. A team that sucks right now. And you got a running back who this offseason isn't happy. He wants a new contract. He needs to be paid. He's great. I mean, awesome. He fumbles in the red zone. He slips on a drive when they need it at the end of the game. He might as well stay on his belly because he's washed up right now. When he broke out for that run, he looked like he was running with a backpack on in the snow uphill, and he was like aging 5 years with every yard. Like that, he was going down so fast. He looked like he turned 30 at the end of that run. He was so bad, and he absolutely fumbled that contract away with that fumble in the red zone. This run game isn't any good. The offensive line isn't good enough right now. They can't get after the quarterback. The defense looks like shit. And then you've got guys like Asante Samuel Jr., who on that run loses Jaden Reed on the end around, takes a terrible angle, and then it's a Packer touchdown. He takes another bad angle again on a Jaden Reed catch at the end of the half, and then he gets that penalty on a 3rd and long. What are you doing? This is not a good enough team. And I know everybody wants to talk about how great this team could be on paper, but they're bad, man. And if you want to talk about going to the playoffs, how far do you think this defense can take you, even if they get to the playoffs? So if you're talking about playoffs, are we talking about playoffs? Playoffs? You can't be talking about playoffs, because if you're talking about playoffs, you got a team that's giving up 300 yards to Jordan Love. Jordan Love's getting 300 yards on this defense. Forget it, dude. It's over. This team sucks. I don't know if they looked past the Packers, but Staley is not good enough. He crossed over to Mike McCoy territory in that press conference today. Don't go after the reporters. What you're doing is not effective. If you keep telling them, hey, we need to work on coverage, it's not good enough. We got to work in the run game. Things are improving. Nothing's improved. So then something you're doing is not working. There's some kind of disconnect. So if you're going to sit there and keep telling them the same thing, they're not listening because they're not getting the results. They're grown men. We are grown men. We know that if you tell somebody something and you're not getting those results, you're not going to listen to that person. So nobody's listening to Staley right now. And in that press conference, he's saying, I'm calling plays. Then what do you have Ansley there for? He's DC in name only? Give the man a break, dude. Why are you, if you're not going to give him the defensive coordinator tag, let him be defensive coordinator. If you are not good enough, give up the reins, man. Let somebody else do it, because right now it's not working. This team is not good enough, and now they're going to be in the cellar pretty damn soon. We're talking top 10 draft pick right now with the way things shake out at the end of the day. So I'm done with this, man. I was so over getting in this meeting and watching them lose in the last seconds again. And of course it's a batted ball by Justin Herbert. I mean, right now, I think we got to start talking about draft picks, and that's all I got for now. I don't know what else you guys have talked about, but that's it. That's all I had.
That was a 10-minute rant. I loved it.
A classic. We need a fire extinguisher for his mic.
I wasn't even planning on getting on in here, to be honest with you. I almost just bailed, but I got back in time, and here I am. And I mean, I don't know. What do we do from here, guys? I mean, what's the plan?
I think you just wrapped it up.
Okay, cool. Go. Are we done? Was that it? I came on and we're done? I mean, it's 52 minutes.
About the only thing we hadn't touched on yet was Eckler.
Okay.
We hadn't really talked about Eckler. We talked about Herbert taking over the game. Talked about the defense. We were just finishing talking about QJ when you jumped on.
Okay.
So I think Eckler's another good talking point is, where do you go from here with the running game? Because they're only activating 2 running backs every week. Eckler, like you said, I mean, the guy looked like he had a piano on his back when he broke out on that long run. He looked like he was looking for a reason to hit the ground. I mean, he has never looked so slow to me before. Now he can't keep his footing. He's falling down on 5-yard out routes, fumbling the ball in the red zone. I mean, there's a lot of things that cost him this game. The defense was terrible. Herbert was not one of them. Herbert played great and took that game over and willed them to the 20 points that they got. But what do you do with the running game? What do you do with Eckler at this point? Because he looks done, and they don't seem to want to get Dotson or Spiller on the field. So what's the answer at this point?
Garrett, you giving your throat a rest, or are you good? Where you at?
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's a rhetorical question. I mean, what?
No. I was serious.
I mean, what do we do from here?
Sorry, pause. By the way, that was a wild question. Well, I don't know if Eckler got the memo today or not about the whole spike situation, because they made a big deal about that on the broadcast and how Staley made sure to talk to the team about wearing the right cleats, and it seemed like everyone had that figured out except the guy who needed it the most. Apparently, he slipped on at least 2 crucial situations. He fumbled the ball, and yes, he was running in the open field like he was wanting someone to tackle him, like he was inviting someone to bring him down. He looked like he was running with another Eckler holding on to him. It's weird. I've never seen him move so slow. And I just assumed that he had to have been hurt, but he stayed in the game. I was praying that he wasn't injured, because if he was, then Joshua Kelly becomes your full-time back, because you won't activate the dude that you drafted in the 4th round a year ago. And no one to this point has an answer for it. And I don't feel like, as opposed to guys waiting for him to go up to the podium and relate how the team is performing now to the Jacksonville game from last year, let's ask some more pertinent questions. Like, how is it that this guy that you spent, I would consider high draft capital on, to basically come in and wear street clothes every week? I don't get it. We saw him perform in the preseason. It looked like he was growing. He made a big run. Yeah, we know that one got called back, but we saw him be explosive. He, to me, has looked, when he's gotten in, as a guy who almost always falls forward, regardless as to whether or not it's just for a 1 or 2 yard gain. He can, as a more creative runner, more natural runner, find running lanes. He has the patience to do it. And he's probably the best running back in your stable that can run both your power and your outside zone scheme. Because keep in mind, by the way, there's a mandate for some strange reason to continue to run outside zone. And I find it very strange now that this has been across 2 regimes as far as the offensive coordinator is concerned. There's something going on here. Again, it falls directly in line with what we're told versus what we get. Moore said out the gate that we wanted to be a downhill running team, and it's still not happening. This is the same gentleman who mutually agreed to part ways from Dallas because he wouldn't run the ball enough. And he was too conservative. I'm sorry, he wasn't conservative enough. My apologies. And now he comes to the Chargers, and he's very conservative on first down, and he won't run the ball downhill, and he won't recognize that the Chargers technically don't have the type of offensive line athleticism needed across the board to run that outside zone scheme. But for some strange reason, it continues to be forced down our throats, and I don't get it. Eckler, I'm sorry, dude. You can't ask for more money playing like this. I mean, you probably made a request that your physical talent right now at this point is essentially showing why you don't get paid that type of money, the type of bread that you're looking for. And Josh Kelly comes and goes. He doesn't even consistently get the ball in power. We don't have a commitment to a running game whatsoever to take some of the stress and pressure off of our quarterback, who we ask to win every single game for us. So I guess long story less long, Jamie, with regard to the running game, we're just not going to have one. This is what we have. This is what they're rolling with. Nothing's going to change. And I don't necessarily know if it's all on Kellen Moore, because this is the same thing we saw with Joe Lombardi. Something is awry.
Yeah, I don't know if there are any answers. The offensive line is soft. They can't pick up a yard on 3rd and short.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even know what they do well. They still haven't figured that out 10 games in. So that's extremely frustrating. All right. What do you think, Garrett? What would you do with the running game?
I mean, what at this point, quite honestly, I was hoping when Will Clapp went down, they would have tried Jordan McFadden, and we just kind of expedited that process to see if maybe he would work long-term at center, because I don't know what's going on with Corey Linsley. That didn't happen, and they have him out. I mean, I think Eckler fumbled his chance today in getting any time a long-term deal going forward. I mean, the way he looked going down that sideline, I mean, that is not a player you want to sign long-term. Anybody that signs him over a 2-year deal, good luck to you, because you aren't getting that far with him. So you've got Eckler that's clearly moving backwards. And I know, and you could talk about the field, but obviously his cleats weren't right, even though he tried to hammer that point home, Staley did. And Reed looked pretty fast on that touchdown run. So, it's not just the grass. It just feels like they don't have the talent to do what they want to do in the power running game. They would love to do it. They'd love to go downhill, but they just don't have the guys up front in the top 5 in the offensive line, and the guys behind them are just not producing in the running backs. And so the game plan early on, it just felt like it was let's run it and then figure it, like Herbert bail us out these next 2 and figure that out. Like there was no plan to start to chip away yards. It was let's run into a wall on first down so that we're like 2nd and 9 or 8 so that we can then pick up 8 yards on the next 2 downs rather than trying to slowly put away like 4 or 5 yard chunks in the run game or in the pass game and then start to chip away at the run game when the pass game was working. I don't know that they have the talent or the backs right now to even work it. And I know the fact that they have Spiller inactive is frustrating, but they also just are not running the ball good enough. And you want to give Spiller a shot, but I don't know that he can do it behind this offensive line either, to be honest with you. So it sucks. I don't know what they're doing with Spiller. Having only 2 guys active on game day is scary, but it just, again, I don't think they have the talent to do it.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is with Spiller, he's just a different style of runner than Kelly and Eckler. And maybe you'd have more success with that power running game with somebody like Spiller, who's built to carry the load and who doesn't have a whole lot of mileage on him based on the way they've used him the last couple of years and even based on the way he was used in college. So, yeah, I mean, you'd think they just want to try something different because Eckler obviously isn't working. Maybe it's time to reduce him to more of a third down back at this point based on the way he's been playing and just get Kelly and Spiller and maybe even Dotson as many carries. Maybe you're splitting 20 carries between those guys. Just trying to see if you can find anything that works. But I agree about the offensive line. The offensive line has not been good as a whole. Obviously there's issues with Clapp, but the guards are not playing well and Pipkins is not playing particularly well. So it's hard to find a fix when 4 out of your 5 offensive linemen aren't playing particularly well.
You know what's bad? How bad the game was today? I thought Guyton was active today. I just assumed that he played today, and we just didn't see him. That's how bad this offense is, and just how bad they've looked. I figured that Guyton just didn't get any looks, and Erickson was open, so they hit him. But then I'm realizing he was inactive, right?
He was inactive.
Okay, when we're talking about inactive,
yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's how bad it's going right now.
So let's throw this out there. Let's say you're the next head coach, and you're coming in, and whether it's Spanos or Telesco says you have free reign with the roster. You can keep as many as 10 guys on the current roster, and we'll get rid of everybody else. Who are you keeping?
Oh, hold on a second. This is a great question. Jamie. Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can. I'll see, but they account for injuries. Okay. Hold on. Let me see. I'm gonna pull up a depth chart because I think that this really will help us. But let me see. Hold on. Chargers. They've got a. All right, I'm gonna have to go. Sorry, they've got it like listed. I want it by like position so I can.
You should be able to sort it by position.
Not on Chargers.com, but hold on. All right, present this. Share this real quick. All right, here is. We can maybe start with. Can you see that? All right. Man, we got ads and ads and ads, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, our lads, come on. Okay, so if you're going, you can basically see all that.
I got it pulled up on my computer.
Okay, cool. There we go. That's better. Because who cares about special teams? All right. Okay, let's go 10. And tell Shep to shut up in the comment. I'm about to block him. I'm not in a mood. Good talk, guys. Yeah, bro, we're trying to pull it up. We're doing it on the whim. All right, let's go. 10 guys on this roster you're keeping.
You go first, Garrett.
Herbert for sure.
Obviously.
Right? Okay. That's it.
Give
That's all
give
I'm
us your list, and then we'll give you ours.
That's it. That's my list. Herbert.
That's your list.
I got Herbert, and everybody else can take a walk. And we got to account for like rookies and stuff too, right? So, all right.
Just pick the 10 guys you keep.
Okay, I'm definitely keeping. I'm keeping Herbert. All my running backs can go. I don't care about Pipkins. We got to keep. We'll keep Slater. We'll keep Keenan. I would like him back another year. I'm keeping Derwin James. What a tough exercise. Are there 10 guys I'm keeping? All right. Derwin James. I got to keep Thule. There's 5. My corners are a little rough. Did I mention I'm going to say so that's 5. I'm going to keep my guards Zion and Jamari cuz I got to keep my line intact. That's 7. I'll keep SJD. I already said Derwin, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Dude, this is hard. What are my last 2 going to be? I almost want to keep a kicker at this point.
You got 3 more, right? You named 7?
Oh, I thought I named 8.
I counted 7. I could be off though.
Keenan, Rashawn, Zion, Jamari. I'm just going to Herbert, SJD, Derwin, Thule. Yeah, that's 8. Whew. And I'm like back and forth on SJD, but I'm not taking him over Nick Williams, Austin Johnson, Morgan Fox. Damn, man.
You thought this was going to be easier, didn't you?
I did. I really did. Because right now I want to keep Dicker the kicker at this point.
Sure.
But I don't want to. He's so clutch. All right, I'll keep.
He's producing.
All right. He's putting points on the board. All right, I'm keeping a kicker, and I never thought I would say that. And then after that, do I get a depth piece? Like, let's keep Henley. Just because I need some kind of linebacker, and I don't, you can't really get rid of the. Anyway, I guess that's my 10. Oh, okay. Wait. Darius Davis. All right. Scratch Henley. I'm keeping Davis because I need a returner. And he's a positive. All right. You guys taking and replacing any of those 10?
I'm keeping Herbert, Slater, Allen, Zion, and Davis. I can do without Jamari at this point. I am also keeping Thule. I would keep Henley because I think he's valuable on special teams and he's going to be a good linebacker. So how many is that so far? Herbert, Slater, Allen, Zion, Davis. That's 5. Thule, Henley. That's 7.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep Dicker.
8.
And that way special teams is pretty much taken care of. And then it starts getting tough.
Yeah.
Palmer. I would keep Palmer.
Okay. Yeah, he's not on this list.
He's not on the list because he's hurt, but I would keep him.
Neither is Mike Williams. Just throw him out.
I'm not keeping him. Who else? Anybody else? Well, I didn't get Derwin yet, so I'd keep Derwin.
Okay. Yep, there's your 10. All right, Craig.
Okay, so Herbert, of course.
1,
Keenan,
2,
Slater,
3,
Zion,
4.
The interior defensive line. You can all kick rocks.
You guys are out on Salyer even after the right tackle year he had last year or left tackle year.
I haven't gotten there yet.
You just said interior can all kick rocks.
It's interior defensive line.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I thought you said Zion, and then I just thought, sorry, my bad.
Now you make me want to like Sawyer. It was on my list, but for that, I almost feel like wanting to keep him off. Anyway, Sawyer.
Sorry.
That's fine. Derwin. I know people have their issues with them right now. Darius Davis.
7.
This might be a little unpopular, but ASJ, but maybe in a different role. I feel like I would want him groom him and be more of a slot guy.
Okay. That's 8. You haven't said Thule yet. Are you keeping Thule?
Thule.
Okay. 9.
And
taking the kicker here.
I might have overdone this. So yeah, I keep Dicker, but then I realized I left Darius Davis off. So someone.
No, you said Davis.
Not Darius Davis. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, then Dicker would complete it. And here's my question though: didn't we leave out? Because I would keep Josh Palmer too. Now that I'm thinking about it, so I could replace a guy. But also, would you want to keep Corey Linsley around for one more year?
I don't. It doesn't seem like that's an option.
Yeah. Not only that, I mean, is that your building block? Do you think you can get another? That's hard on a guy that's already close to retirement as it is before the whole hard.
I would just want to have him as, I guess, kind of a gap stop with experience. We know we can do when he's healthy. I know,
yeah, for sure,
when he's healthy, and then transition that over to a younger guy. But I just can't, unless you're talking about a high level early draft pick center, one of the best, which I don't know if you're spending that type of draft capital on. I'd probably want him around for at least another year and then transition over if necessary. But I wouldn't want to start Herbert off with the baby center.
Yeah, I hear you.
Makes sense.
All right. Anything else we want to get to before we get off here? Because I wasn't here, but we're well over an hour now. You pretty good? Words?
Here we are, guys. It's what I think we feared. And I think at this point, I want to say this before we step away.
Okay.
First and foremost, before I became a part of the lightning round, one of the reasons why I was drawn to it was because you guys offer fair and balanced critiques of the team. That was one of the things that initially drew me to you. So I appreciated it. And unfortunately, now we've run into this situation where we have like these gatekeeper fans that have this issue with people being critical of the team, and they will bypass all of these continual issues that we're having to deal with on a week-to-week basis. They don't want us to identify them. If you're critical, then somehow that translates into you being negative. And I will say this, and I think I speak for all three of us when I say we don't give a crap about any of that, man. Y'all can feel however you want. We're going to continue to be truthful and honest and give you our raw opinions about it. And we're not going to sugarcoat anything to spare anyone's feelings. When the team deserves praise, we give them that. When they wet the bed, we're going to come on here and we're going to talk about it. But we're not going to avoid the issues, and we're not going to look away from things as if they don't exist. We don't practice willful ignorance. That's not a thing here. So if that's what you're looking for, sorry, not sorry. That's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I missed it. I don't know if anybody was saying that, but yeah, I mean that's always been our.
Yeah, not necessarily in here, like in the chat. I mean, in general, because we catch flack for being quote unquote negative all the time. And you know what? At the end of the day, I don't care if that's how you feel. Cool, but I mean, again, if you want to ignore the things that are directly in front of your face because you feel like that's not called being supportive of your team, then we just agree to disagree.
Well, they're wrong, so I don't know that we would need to do that. But yeah, we won't pander, and it is pretty ugly for those that do, and we'll just keep doing us, right, Jamie?
Yep,
we're
always going to do us. I just wanted to end on a positive note here and just say Herbert played a hell of a game again. That's 2 really good games in a row, and I love seeing him get pissed with Clapp on that delay game call, and just see him take the game over with his arm and his legs in a way that we really haven't seen. And I hope they continue to expand on his ability to run the ball, because I think it helps the offense and it just makes them that much harder to defend.
Yeah, your Chargers leading rusher today, Justin Herbert.
Sick.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks for tuning in to After Hours. We'll be back, I'm sure, on Tuesday for what's our other show called? Mailbag Roundtable, TLO Roundtable. And we will see you then. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
I messed the whole thing up. Take two. Hold on. Thanks, everybody. And I just did it again. I'm out of here. Bye.
He's glitching.
Amy.
Thanks, everybody.